Anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
Would you like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. You safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and or YouTube. And follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. I'm Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor and Ash.
Hi! And today we're talking about The Intruder. 2 months after the siege of Atlantis, several members of the expedition had been to Earth and come back to the Pegasus galaxy aboard the Daedalus. That boring travel becomes dangerous when McKay discovers a Wraith computer virus that is trying to kill them and get control of the ship.
Dun dun dun!
Dun! That was kind of on beat.
Yay! Oh, season 2! This finally feels like season 2.
Yes.
Because the siege kind of the siege part 2 felt still like season 1, and now we're in season 2.
We're in it.
We're here.
Yes.
We're clear.
We can finally stop. We can finally stop. I can finally stop saying I don't remember anything about season 2. Because we're here now. So I'm gonna remember.
Yes. Yeah. You're bound to.
There was a lot happening in this episode, especially. So much meat happening in this sandwich.
No, right? I was like, I wrote down, like, within the first 5 minutes, I was just like, whoa, there's so much, like, new information and kind of just, like, characterization just thrown in. And just from that, like, Elizabeth and John scene alone, I was just like, they started off hot. They said, let's go character development, or let's go, like, updates. Like, they fully put in the work. And I love them for that.
Yeah.
I do too. Who else was shocked that John made Colonel? Crazy. And he is so proud. He wants everybody to know that he's Colonel. And I feel like majority of that pride is just completely spite-based. Like, nobody thought that he would ever make it. And now he's here. And so, which is very Rodney-kin of John.
Oh, man. I'm sure if he was allowed to, I'm sure he would have just, like, given them all the middle finger instead of saluting at, like, the end of his little ceremony. He would have just been like, fuck yeah, bitches! I made it!
Exactly.
And instead he was like, yeah.
But you know,
he's giving them the middle finger secretly. Yeah, inside.
Yeah,
he's holding it in.
With his eyes. He's doing it with his eyes. I don't know how, but it's there.
And everybody knows. Yeah, exactly.
Everybody.
Like, 3 generals after his little ceremony had to just go out to a bar and, like, get drunk because they were so mad. They're like, we need to blow off some steam.
My favorite thing about this is the reason why he got promoted is because of a civilian. Elizabeth, a fucking civilian, has enough or that much respect and influence on the military that she can get somebody promoted. That's some queen shit. I'm just gonna say it's just
Oh, 100%. She negotiated his way into a promotion in that scene completely. She is the master, and he has her to thank, really, for all of that. I just thought it was so interesting how she was like, you know, the president loves me, all these nations' leaders love me, like, you're really not gonna go with what I say. I just, that was very scrumptious. Another thing I really liked about that scene in particular was her loyalty to all of the original Atlantis expedition members. Not only did she want all of the original people back, which speaks to, you know, the family dynamic they created and the trust they all have in each other, but she also wanted all of them to have a say in who gets to go back to Atlantis. So, like, who, in terms of new people, get to join the expedition, which is really awesome. And I'm glad that she included everybody in that process, even if Carson didn't really want the responsibility.
Yeah. He's adorable.
Yeah. But she's right. Who better to know who's best suited for that environment than those people who were there, thought they were trapped there forever, and, you know the dynamics in the city, know what would play well with others, what they need, etc.
100% agree. And I think, oh man, Elizabeth is starting off so strong this first episode. And I think all of her like flashback scenes were just really great. And they just showed her as like decisive. Like she knows what she wants and like she was not willing to back down. But she was also like, it wasn't like she was being like a dictator or anything. It wasn't like she was like demanding anything, but she was also like just being like, hey, Carson, come on in, like pick your crew, you know? Like she was just being just a very good leader. And I just love that she is not taking any shit. And we kind of already see they lay the groundwork in this episode, the tension between her and Caldwell. We get some really fun moments of like the push and pull dynamic where they're trying to figure out who's going to be the one, you know, to lead the charge. So, you know, great Elizabeth episode. I mean, technically, I feel like it's a good, like, Elizabeth and Rodney episode.
Mm.
Like, John is sprinkled in. I'm not sure he gets as much as the rest of them. But I guess you can technically call this, like, a leadership trio episode or leadership crew episode.
Oh.
But, yeah, Elizabeth and Rodney, I feel like, get the best of this episode.
Interesting, because I felt like this episode is more focused on Elizabeth and John, as in their roles. I felt like John had quite a lot to do. I mean, just because he kept trying to find different ways to deal with the whole virus situation, but a leadership trio, my heart. Yeah, what you said about Elizabeth and Caldwell, I love their relationship. It's just such a love-hate relationship. And it's always about who has the upper hand. And I think it's so fun to watch. I think it's really, really fun to watch. And I feel like Elizabeth mostly wins. But yeah, Caldwell was so petty in some scenes here, like this scene where he sent all civilians back to their rooms. Basically, I was like, okay, this is getting personal. This is personal now. Yeah, and Elizabeth was just not having it. And, yeah,
like the civilians were second-class citizens. And I love how Rodney speaks up in that scene too, and he's like, those people can help us solve the problem. Why are we making them go to their rooms like misbehaving children? So good. I love that. And I think it speaks to both, you know, Elizabeth and Rodney's trust in the other members of the expedition and their team to like pull through and get things done. Like I feel like they'd probably trust their own crew versus the Daedalus crew, who they don't really know as well and haven't been through situations with before.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes Caldwell, like, I think the first few times I watched Atlantis, I hated Caldwell, and I think he's a very interesting character because I kind of see where he's coming from. He too trusts his team or the military, because he's military, more than the people he doesn't know. So he has that standpoint, and Elizabeth and Rodney are coming from the different directions, and that kind of creates the tension. But I think he's very interesting to watch, and he's just trying to, I don't know. maybe he just has very big dreams and he's just not getting there. It's like kind of in his reach. Like he wants John's job and he doesn't get it. And I think that's why he's so petty.
Yeah.
It's just I always the scene to go back to the scene where Elizabeth negotiates John's promotion. And they kind of talk about, yeah, we need a new military leader because Sumner is gone. And the camera pans to Caldwell, and he's kind of like all smug and smiling. And Elizabeth is like, nah, nope. It's great.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why their interactions are always really satisfying or fun to watch is because I feel like Elizabeth always has a bit of an upper hand when it comes to their interactions. Like, she's very much above it all, and like I don't see him ever flustering her. I think he's the one who gets flustered when they have conversations. So I love seeing her put a military man on his toes. Like, just makes me yeah. Go Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Ash kind of brought it up really well, but I think what makes Caldwell really interesting too as well is that, like, yeah, you see where he's coming from, and the thing is, like, he's not unfair. Like, I wanted to bring up that part where, you know, Rodney in the beginning is like, hey, what does he do? He basically just like he's like, oh, like, this could be a virus or something, like, we have to stop the ship, and Caldwell's like, no, I'm not doing that. And then when there's like actual proof, he's like, call off, like, yeah, turn off the ship. So like he just needed like concrete proof. Like, he's not unreasonable, he's just like a hard ass. Which is like valid, you know, he's old, he's military, like, that's so valid. So I think he doesn't come off as like too unlikable ever, really. I feel like he still comes off like, yeah, he can be kind of an asshole, but I feel like you don't, it's not like a love-hate. I feel like it's more of like a dislike love kind of vibe. They're like, oh, he's just being cranky. Little old grandpa from of the Atlantis base.
Yeah.
Caldwell just rolls in. Sometimes he's like, y'all should fix this regulation. And Liz was like, okay, Grandpa, we're on it. Like, that's the vibe I get. Whenever Caldwell visits, they're like, oh, just let him. Like, he wants to change this. Like, just let him think you changed it for him. It'll help his ego.
So true.
Can't get the image of like Grandpa Caldwell just strolling around Atlantis like, you kids, you're so noisy. Back in my time, I don't know. We're ruining him, but it's hilarious. And I do think that he comes off as an asshole at least once, and we will come to that in a few episodes. And I think it's Conversion, and he's being a complete asshole in that one.
That's true.
So, yeah. But we'll talk about that.
True.
This one,
That's
it's really fun.
No, sorry, really quick. I'm gonna also just say this is separate from Grandpa Caldwell. But it can actually work. It can work in. No, I just feel like it's so funny because I just feel like every time Caldwell like comes, I feel like it's very much kind of like a Hermiod type of situation where like they're both kind of like, God damn it, I got stuck with these people again. Like, but you know, Hermiod's talking about like just humans in general. Caldwell's like, God damn, he's like, I gotta visit the fruity base again. Like, he's just coming up, like, he just gives off like he's like, you're all gay. Like, he's the only straight one. And he visits Atlantis, and he's like, I hate you guys. Like, it's giving rolling with the LGBT. I'm gonna make that edit one day. Quote me on that.
Yes! Oh my god! Please
yes,
do.
Please.
Walk out the way when you see me. I'm rolling with the LGBT and just Caldwell walking through the halls of Atlanta.
Those are the vibes, for real.
Yeah. Whenever he pops up and he's just like so angry, I just hear the song in the background in my mind. It just makes me laugh because he's just like, I hate this base. Like, I feel like Parrish would be like, hey, do you want to like... Parrish tries to be nice and is like, hey, come to our wedding. And Caldwell's like, are you insane? Not that he's homophobic. Sorry, we just give him like... No, he's just
No, because
He's
regulations.
just old. He's not used to it. Yeah, exactly. He's just not used to it. He's like, you guys are in the open? He's like, in my day. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we've ruined Caldwell again.
The second time.
Yeah, we went back. I wanted to talk about something Ash mentioned earlier, actually. we jump around so much. I really noticed this when I was making the time steps. I was like, we'll spend 2 minutes talking about one thing and go back to another thing we just said. It's bad. But I was gonna say, so that's so interesting that Ash said that it's kind of like a John centric, because I thought it was more of like a Rodney centric, honestly, because I feel like John, he does get a lot. That's why I kind of said like it's kind of more of like a leadership, but I feel like out of the three, I think he gets less, because I feel like he does get some, but I also feel like he's just kind of like there to like say like little one lines besides a few moments. He's just kind of like being sassy and quirky and like he's just saying that. But I feel like with Rodney, like, man, there's a lot. I mean, to bring it up first, someone dies again in front of him. This is like the third time this has happened in the past, like what, like year and a half. Is he okay?
No.
No. They keep re-traumatizing my boy. I don't appreciate that, but I do, secretly. I do appreciate it a lot, because... But I don't. It's so sad, and it's always, like, a member of the science team, too. So someone he's technically directly responsible for. It's just sad. I don't like it.
The blue shirts and the red shirts of Stargate.
Truly.
Oh, no, that's so sad. But yeah, someone again dies in front of him, and oh man, I just felt so bad, especially because, you know, we kind of talked about season 1 how they kind of make it a point to show like that he does, like, you know, he does care for his team, you know, his science team, even though he's like kind of fucking rude to them. But we see like his reaction when, what is that? One science guy dies in the Defiant one. You know, when he kills himself in front of him, and Ronnie's just like, you know, there's that one. Then Peter dies in front of him, and you know, we made a point too. He goes to see Heitmeyer, and he's like, you know, with tissues, he's like crying, like he goes to therapy and stuff. And it's like, stop killing people in front of Rodney. He has enough to deal with.
Yeah, that scene where in this episode where I don't know what his name is, but the one who gets blown out the like the airlock.
Lindstrom.
That's just Lindstrom, and Rodney watches him and tries to help him, and it's so horrible. And he kind of, I think in that scene, Rodney he realizes that he can't help him, and that Lindstrom can't help himself either, and it's just, and he's just screaming at him, and he can't even hear him, but he can see him scream his name, and it's just like, help me, and it's just, oh. Double therapy sessions after this when he gets back to Atlantis, for sure. Also, I hope they brought like a whole shipment of therapists this time.
Not just
them.
one.
Just half the passengers in Daedalus are therapists, I hope.
It's needed.
Oh my
desperately.
God. Yeah, Elizabeth was like, they were like, all right, we'll take like 5 therapists. She's like, triple that. She's like, I need 15. She's like, you're coming with me, all of you. Like, let's go. She's like, don't worry, y'all. I'm coming. Mama's coming home. With just a bunch of therapists.
This is a total side note, but I have a ship which is Elizabeth and Katrina Cornwell from Star Trek Discovery. And she also used to be a therapist, or is a therapist. And, I have, like, with 2 friends, I have this AU where she comes to Atlantis, and she
Hey, I'm down with that.
I love that.
I love that for Elizabeth. Getting mental health for her team and also enrichment in her life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Aww.
I keep shipping her. Like, obviously I ship Teylabeth, but I also ship Elizabeth Kate and also Elizabeth cat, and it's just like 2 or 3 are therapists.
And one's really good at
Oops.
meditation. So
That's true. Well, I was gonna say, this is a great segue. Look at this. Speaking of Elizabeth's relationships,
Ooh.
oh yeah.
professional out here. Guess who makes his return? Stupid Simon.
It's fucking Simon. He...
Yeah, accurate. You know what I think was so shocking to me in the rewatch of this episode? The fact that Carson had no idea who this guy was. Like, he knew him from his resume and didn't know that Elizabeth knew him. Like, she just is very private. She did not tell anybody about her personal life on Earth, which I knew, but it also was kind of shocking to see now that I'm really paying attention. It's just so interesting that she never opened up about him to anybody on the base. I guess for good reason.
I think it's very interesting, and I think about it a lot when I think about like any fanfic ideas, including Elizabeth and the partner, because it always, or oftentimes, I come back to like Simon. I think Simon was very important to her, and but I also feel like it was a relationship. I don't know if I talked about this before on the podcast, but I think she kind of settled for it. Like, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't the romance of the century, but she was content and she settled for it. And maybe it was also comfortable. So that's why she stayed, maybe. And yeah, it's so interesting. And what always baffles me when I watch this episode, because it's actually one of my more watched episodes, it's because I really like it, is that she sent him a message. First of all, I wonder if he ever got the message from Letters from Pegasus. And then I feel like we forgot about the message. And because Elizabeth kind of, to me, it seems, the way it is shown, it seems like she still expects that they are together and that that nothing happened. She doesn't say, she didn't say, hey, please go and live your life and be happy. But she's kind of there expecting that he's still there, and that doesn't fit. To me, it just doesn't fit into like what we've seen so far. So that always confuses me a bit, why she thought he was still there waiting for her.
You bring up a really good point. Because the whole time I was just like chanting in my head. I was like, Elizabeth, stand up! Like, girl, stand up! Like, I don't know, for some reason they made her like so, I want to use the word like passive in this relationship. Like, she's very much just like a passenger in a car, and like Simon's the one driving. And I just feel like that's just not in line with what we've really seen so far from her. Like, I think, not that like she can't take a more passive role, but just the way that like she lets him like be fucking evil to her. Like, he's like literally such a shit boyfriend. Like, girl, no, get up. And like the part where like she literally like makes him this dinner, and like this candlelight dinner, and he comes and he's like, yeah, I'm seeing someone else. Like, she's a better person than me, because I would have, I don't know, like started a little fire, like burnt something down, like hid the chicken so like it like leaves the smell in the kitchen for a few hours, or like, you know, for a few days. Ooh, get that like really rotten in there. Like, I don't know. She was just like, damn, I just got cheated on, and like walked out the door. Or we don't want to see her walk out, but she's just like sad. And I was like, no, Elizabeth, no. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like her relationship with Simon was always just really inconsistent. And it very much was like men writing. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I can't help but think if like a woman was there to like write it would have been a little better, or at least a little more like coherent, because we really don't know like why she's into him, why she stays. Like he clearly doesn't feel the same for her. He turned off her message in Rising. Like obviously she wasn't there to see that, but like there's clear issues here. You know, and it just seems like she's been putting up with it for so long, and then he finally was like, "Oh God, an excuse. Yeah, I can break up with her because of Atlantis." But yeah, I don't know. I really dislike that relationship, and I really hate Simon, and I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, the hot actor cannot save Simon. Go back to being Nareem.
What bothers me about the dinner scene, like where she makes him dinner, is that why didn't he tell her sooner? Why didn't they have a talk when you used the word, Sam, you used the word inconsistent. That's perfect. It doesn't make sense that the things that they talk about happen in the order that they happen. It doesn't make sense. And why didn't they have a talk when she came back like immediately and just like, hey, did you get my message? Did you? I guess she would still like show up maybe at his place. Did they live together? I think so. Maybe I don't know. We don't know. But like, I guess she would just like, hey, can I come over? Can we talk? I'm back, by the way. And I would assume that they would have a talk about their relationship as soon as she got back, and then just go, like from what we see, go their separate ways. But it doesn't happen. It happens so late, and no, you're such an asshole. Why did you lead her on for so long? Why didn't you just tell her? She really deserved better than that. And yeah. No, yeah. Bye.
Yeah.
Also, she took Sedge.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
But I agree. I just think it was really bizarre. In general, like, assuming they were living together, and then you're seeing somebody else, like that would be the first thing, really. Like, of course, you welcome them home, like, because you haven't seen them, you didn't know they were alive, whatever. But like, honesty would be good, and being like, hey, instead of leading this person on, like you were saying, and they have no idea, like they're oblivious, like they think that you're gonna live a life with them, like you're gonna go to space and live with them, and then you're like, oh, I'm not going to space, and also, oh, I'm seeing somebody else. Like this, if she was told, you know, like, oh, my life is here, like I am in a relationship now, I didn't know that you were alive, like I can't move my life. Like if he was just upfront about that, it would be way less embarrassing, way less awkward, way less painful and drawn out than it was. And so yeah, he's a butt. I don't like him. And I'm glad that he's gone. Like regardless, even
or
if he
attempts to curse.
yeah. Like regardless, even if he did receive her message where she was like, oh, don't wait for me or whatever, like it's just decency to be like, no, I didn't wait for you, like this is, you know.
Yeah, even if he saw her message, then it would make even more sense to tell her that there's someone else.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
But that's okay because she gets to go home to Teyla at the end of the episode, so that's fine.
Can we talk about that scene real quick?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Domestic marriage vibes.
It's one of my favorite scenes between them. Honestly, it's so... I love... Okay, first of all, when they get back and Teyla greets them and Elizabeth and John are there and John keeps asking questions and Teyla is always answering him and Elizabeth. She's always talking to both of them, even though Elizabeth hasn't said a word. I'm just like, she knows, she
gets it.
I just love that. Yeah, she gets it. Then But she asks Elizabeth if it wasn't nice to like reunite with your family and loved ones. Elizabeth looks at her and like gives her this look, and instantly Taylor is worried. She's like, before that she's like smiling, so happy you're back, and then she's like, oh shit, something happened. She knows something is up. I think. Yeah. And then something I wrote down when Taylor mentions like her loved ones back on Earth, I was like, what if Elizabeth's loved ones are in Atlantis? Perhaps.
Maybe.
100%.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just like, yeah. I think she was in love with Taylor at that point, but it's just like if we go canon wise, then I don't think she would cheat on Simon. Like I don't think she would cheat. But yeah, she definitely was in love with Taylor.
But feelings.
Point, and it just feelings happen. And it's just that scene is also so cute because after that, Zelenka comes in and just his crush is showing.
Yeah, it is.
And he's just so happy, and he asks Elizabeth about something, and Taylor's like, "Hey, hold on, can we just give her a minute for her to arrive and everything?" And they give each other a look while Zelenka is talking. It's just like, they have such a connection. I'm 100% sure that that's thanks to the actors that they made the choice to like just have this connection between them, and they gave us like a lot of those little crumbs. Yeah, I love them. They are so cute.
100%. Taylor's like, let my wife rest. Little man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I'm sure Taylor wants to hear about what happened on Earth, so, clear the office. It's gossip time.
I know. And side note, this is just a little side note, but I'm still so pissed that we never got to see like Taylor's full reaction. Yeah, I was gonna say Ronan, but no. Taylor's full reaction to like being on Earth. We never see her step on Earth for the first time.
Like, imagine Elizabeth brought Taylor, then they would have had such a better time. Come on.
Yeah, genuinely. Because we do, we obviously see them land in San Francisco in the finale, but it's like we don't see her go into town. Like, oh, it drives me crazy that Taylor's the one person that never showed really back on Earth, or her first reaction to Earth. Besides, she's in home, but like that's obviously a dream, right? So it's like, okay, lies.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
We need the Sam Vala shopping scene, but Elizabeth and Taylor fun times on Earth. Equivalent.
When they're at a bar, they go to a dive bar. And they play pool.
Yes. 100% yes.
Yep. Oh, real quick, sorry. This is goes just a tiny bit back to Simon. Because we were just talking about home, and I remember that Simon was also in home, and maybe that's a part why this relationship seems so inconsistent because in home he was a dream, and he was kind of like the ideal or an idealization of Simon.
True.
And of their relationship. So this is actually the second time that we see him in person. So yeah, just kind of.
Yeah, that is very true because he does pop up in home, and yeah, he's like perfect, and that's why Elizabeth is like, what the fuck is going on here? But I just think it's so interesting because he seems very like tired is how I would describe their relationship. Honestly, it's like I wonder again. There's just so many questions we don't have answered because it feels like for me, it feels like a relationship that's been going on for quite a while, but they just got so comfortable. And like they just like they needed an excuse to break up, and this is it. But he just seems so over it. Like from day one, he's just like checked out completely. And I just feel so bad for Elizabeth, especially when she's like asking him like, "Oh, like why aren't you gonna come?" And he's just like, "This is your dream, not mine," Like she genuinely just seems so confused. by it, and it just makes me kind of mad and sad for her, because I think Elizabeth would be a lot better at like perceiving him and being like, oh yeah, he's not feeling it, but she's so like completely blindsided by it almost that it's like, this is so sad and mean for her.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those cases based on the evidence where their ambitions were just not compatible. And maybe because they weren't compatible, they kept them apart. And so Elizabeth may have done a lot of traveling because of her work with the government. And now with Atlantis, she's literally not even on Earth anymore. And so the distance... maybe he feels like he just doesn't have it in him to sacrifice for her dream, and she's not willing to give up Atlantis to be with him, and so it's just not gonna work. It just makes me sad for her. Like, I don't really care about him, obviously, because we're not invested in him at all. But for sure, I feel like her role is an isolating one, and so it would have been nice for her to have somebody in her corner, and he was not in her corner at all. No. Clearly. So
okay, but I think we can all agree Simon and Elizabeth probably top 5 worst ships in Atlantis.
Yeah, top 5.
Especially worse like relationships, like canon. Not even like ships, just like in the show.
Oh yeah.
Like, up there with like Rodney, Keller, and John and Nancy. Oh girl. It's a whole mess.
Yeah, I was saying I wanted to say it's not like Sam Pete, but it's also pretty bad.
Yeah, it's similar types of like
yeah. I mean, Pete is just straight up, he's stalking her, so just fuck you. He's just no. And it's not a good. I feel like it's so weird. Elizabeth talks. Elizabeth is such a smart person and knows how to communicate, but I feel like she's unable to do that in relationships. She can do it as a job, but she just can't do it in relationships.
True.
Or in her relationship with Simon.
True.
Maybe because he's too tired. I don't know. But yeah.
I really like that.
Out.
He's gone from that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, he checked out.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be back.
She's with Taylor that talk. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. They communicate.
Yes. Or just if they don't, Taylor just forces her to communicate. Or she's just like, go to therapy. They're on a walk, and then Taylor is secretly just leading her to the therapist's office.
Oh look what's next door.
What you have? You just have 60 minutes of free time. Perfect. Here, sit.
I cleared your schedule. Don't worry.
No, Taylor would do that. She would if Elizabeth doesn't go to therapy on her own merits, Taylor would force her.
Oh yes,
I think
so too. She'd make her make the time.
A lot nicer.
Yeah,
she'd be a lot nicer than she is with the boys.
Yeah,
Taylor just whips out her damn stick with the boys. She just goes straight for like the head bonking and like, go to therapy. She would like build up to that with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, like, she's really stubborn. One day she'd be like, all right, we're gonna go spar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's another fic idea I'm thinking. It should be.
I'm sparring.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god. Please.
Yeah. There was one. I think during Teylabeth week, someone posted. I'm not sure if I'm mixing something up, but there was one fic where Taylor was trying to court Elizabeth, and she was like asking all these different Earth people how to do it, and they all gave her terrible advice, and it just never clicked. Elizabeth was just always completely oblivious, and there's also a sparring scene, I think, which is really good. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but I can link it.
Yes, do it.
Show notes.
I do want to switch gears though, back to the first scene, because I really have so much praise for that first scene, for all of like the work that it did for like both characters, especially for John. I feel like we get a lot of just information. John not really caring about going back to Earth or like being on Earth. You know, he's just like, whatever. Like we went there. He's like, as we went there, we came back. Elizabeth saying, you know, talking about how much she missed Atlantis, you know, big ones. Those two were the ones that really stood out to me. Because they're just chatting, but you just get this information and you just instantly know like what they're both feeling, and they both seem to just be like longing for Atlantis, and it's so sweet, and it just again reinforces the whole Misfit Toys, Island of Misfit Toys kind of vibe.
Yeah, even the fact that the Daedalus is going to be like 2 weeks out from Atlantis is too long to be away any longer, which I thought was really cute. And I agree. I think it's a nice bow for both of their character arcs in season 1, where I feel like for Elizabeth, she did have a connection to Earth, and that connection has been severed in this episode, and so now completely she's committed fully, not that she wasn't committed before, but like now we know like concretely she is fully like in on Atlantis, and there's really nothing for her on Earth that she would rather be there for. And then John, it's just again reinforcing this idea that he doesn't have anything on Earth. Even in his mind thinking like, oh yeah, when am I gonna get back home? He does go back home, and he just doesn't care. Like he just wants to go back to Atlantis. So it kind of proved to him that no, Atlantis is home now. And that was nice to see after that whole journey they both went on in the first season. That now, even though they have access to Earth, they're kind of like, Atlantis is where it's at. Which is nice.
Oh.
Yeah, I love that first scene. I think it's so sweet that that they both, that Atlantis is their home, and that they don't feel Earth doesn't feel like home anymore, and it's Atlantis now, and it's just they found their place, and they want to go back there, and that dynamic in that scene is so much fun to watch. I think because John is so smug, like the burden of command, and she's like, oh please, bitch, get it together, and also the fact that. Did he not know that he has to thank her for getting the promotion? Because she says, I think it's when he says, there were people who thought I would never make it past captain, and she said, obviously, she must through that she has something to say in his promotion, and he was like, what? I was wondering about that, if he did not know that she did that for him.
Yeah, I think her line was so good. She was like, when he made that comment about like nobody thinking he would make it, and then she was like, nobody's opinion matters. Something her opinion mattered the most, but she didn't say it was her. She was just like, not the opinion that mattered the most. So hinting that she was the one who was responsible, which I love, and her face in that scene was so like smug and awesome. And I love it. I kind of like that it goes unspoken, because there's more, I feel like there's more power in that too than her being like, oh yeah, it was because of me. It was just great. I agree, that was so good. My only complaint is that we didn't get to really see how Rodney felt about being back home, and his desire to go back to Atlantis, because I feel like as much as Rodney would enjoy the comfort of living on Earth, and the fact that they can go back to Earth whenever they want, he'd be itching to go back to Atlantis too, just to work on science stuff. Make sure that the city is running in one piece without him.
Yeah, you're right. That would be interesting. Yeah, we only saw what Elizabeth and John felt about being back on Earth. You're right. That would be interesting. Is his cat still alive?
Yeah, I want to know. Did he visit his neighbor?
Yeah. And why didn't he bring his cat back? Let pets be allowed in Atlantis. Let pets be allowed.
I feel like Rodney's cat would beat up Sedge.
Oh no.
Stop.
Rodney's cat would be a bitch, 100%. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
They have to keep them, when they are on their way back to Atlantis under Daedalus, they have to keep them in different, like, compartments of the ship. They can't be in the same, because they just go nuts.
I would die.
Also, the first time John tries to pet it, it definitely bites him.
Oh, yeah.
John's like, are you fucking for Rodney, get your damn cat. Rodney's like, oh, my baby. It's like, good boy, good girl. And John's like, what the fuck?
Bite the evil man.
Yeah.
Rodney's just happy.
Like, but you scared her.
Yeah.
John's like, I just went to say hi. And Rodney's like, well, I mean, she doesn't like you. She like senses bad omens or some shit.
She feels his demons.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, come on. Oh my god. Okay. New freak idea. Okay, what if like Rodney's cat was previously like trained like a therapy cat.
Oh.
So it would like maybe not. This is more like we can go the endearing route or like the funny route. The funny route would be like it just fucking will sense anytime someone's in like stress and it'll be like batting like John's shoulder like, hey, you're stressed. And John's like, tell your cat to stop telling me to go to therapy. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm just like, no, you're not. Go. Or the endearing route is like, oh, the cat will just go up to people sometimes, and when it feels like everyone's sad, and just like hop into Elizabeth's lap, or like hop into like Taylor's, hop into Ronan's shoulder.
Adorable.
Yeah, but both of those are fun. Go ahead. If anyone wants to write them, take it. Just tag me.
Do it.
I want to see it. But yeah, just adventures of Rodney's and his cat. I need it.
Yes, me too. I would laugh if the cat didn't like John, and Rodney was so happy because for once, John's charm does not work on our living creature.
I'll incorporate that in our canon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's in the Jumping Puddles canon, guys.
I love it.
Rodney's cat hates John. Canon. It just like slinks around the base, and it'll just like. I can see John getting like jump scared by just in the hallway. He's like walking, he's like, ah! And just the cat just comes out, just like sitting there, just like glaring at him. And he's like glaring back. It's just a showdown between him and the cat.
The cat wins.
Yeah.
The cat wins. And then when him and Rodney start getting together, first they, then it's like a whole issue. Rodney's like, well, now you have to get along with my cat. It's like, you two are the most important people in my lives. And John's like, what do you want me to do? She hates me. The adventures of John having to court and please Rodney's cat so that they can all get along equally.
Rodney has to get like a babysitter to watch the cat. John goes over. He's like, Ronan, please. I haven't seen him in 2 weeks.
Like, take the cat, like, babysit. We need alone time. Also, oh my god, we're gonna stop. But I also just so funny. I could see the cat, like, when John sleeps over, every morning John wakes up, like, being smothered by the cat, like, almost suffocating, because the cat's just, like, sitting on his face. And Ronnie's like, John's like, get the cat off me. Ow, I can't breathe.
I'm dying.
Oh, I wanted to bring this up, though. There's no segue. No good segue. I don't know how to relate cat to Wraith. But can we talk about how smart the Wraith were this episode? And how, like, terrifying their presence was, even though they weren't even on screen? I was like, why don't the Wraith use this more often in the show? Like, this is OP if they could just somehow get a little virus in every time. I mean, I'm sure Atlantis would have, like, come up with some way to, like, block it eventually. But, like, it would have been a hell of a stressful thing to have to, like, disable every time, you know, try to figure out, like, how to outsmart, like, the Wraith virus. And I just love that in season 2, the Wraith are, like, still, well, as of right now, they're still, like, smart. Like, they actually have, like, they fight with their brains sometimes, and they, like, almost outsmarted, and they would have outsmarted, you know, the Daedalus if it wasn't for Rodney.
That's right.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was really cool. I liked the vibe of this episode, and I think it was smart not to show the Wraith. Like, we've seen the Wraith before, we would know that they are terrifying, but they are even terrifying when they are not present. And it's just their virus and their AI. That was really cool. I think, nice choice to make for this episode. Also, it was kind of a murder mystery in the beginning, so it was fun.
Yeah, the setup was great. Like, I loved the clue nature in the beginning because you're on this new ship with only a set number of people, and, like, you don't know who is responsible for this killing. And of course, it's the Wraith. But yeah, I think it's a lot more interesting than the Wraith, like, chasing them because they had to drop out of hyperspace for whatever reason. Like, this is a much more interesting threat. And I particularly like how so much of the Wraith technology is part biological. So, like, their ships feel like they're living. Similarly, the Wraith virus is almost biological in nature because it kind of adapts to the host, in this case, the Daedalus's immune response to it. Like, it kind of overcomes everything that they're putting in place to prevent it from infecting more of the ship. So I thought that was cool, too. Just to tie into the whole theme of the Wraith being of the Earth.
I thought it was so smart because it was an AI, but I like that biological spin on it.
Yeah. And I especially liked how Rodney, as always, saves the day. He knows what's going on. Everybody should listen to him way more.
They really should. They really should. I love how, like, I don't want to say, like, he's arrogant, right? Especially in this episode, he's arrogant, right? But he's, like, confident in his abilities, and, like, it's you know his arrogance comes from his, like, confidence, right? And I don't know, I just love it so much that he's, like, just very, like, no, like, I know what I'm doing. And, like, they have no choice but to be like, all right, yeah, you do. Like, because, like, no one, come on, y'all can say whatever shit you want about Rodney, but at the end of the day, he is smarter than all of us. And that's just the truth. And, like, they know it. He knows it. They know he's literally the most valuable member of, like, of the team, basically. And, like, I love that he comes in, and he's doing everything he can, and he's just basically just running around the ship trying to solve it. And you feel like you just really I love when just they let David ramble, and I'm like, yes, talk some sciencey shit. Like, it's just so fun to see him on screen and just be, you know, dynamic and being the one that everyone turns to for answers. Everyone's like, all right, what do we do now, Rodney? And he's like, all right, we're gonna do this. This is the plan. Yeah, I just love that. Look at him getting some respect, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny, in particular, the one scene where Caldwell, like, shuts down his, like, oh, no, we're not gonna get out of hyperspace, whatever. And then in the following scene where he's like, okay, we're gonna drop out of hyperspace. And Rodney's, like, a little bit surprised that he agreed and he didn't have to argue. And his face was like, oh, Like, this is kind of nice. Cool. It's nice to be listened to. That was such a nice little moment. I think it's funny how for all of Rodney's like confidence in his abilities and stuff, people like conceding to his authority and intellect still gives him a sense of like, oh, like a nice burst of confidence, a nice little treat for him. It's cute.
So cute.
Yeah.
And I mean, we gotta bring it up at some point. We've been running all over this place. How have we not talked about Elizabeth and Rodney this episode?
Yeah. Oh, they're the best. I love their like blue and red. When they stand next to each other. Oh, my favorite.
So cute. So cute. There's so many good little moments. One of the ones I noticed that it cracks me up is when, so it's Rodney, John, Elizabeth, and Caldwell in the hallway, and Caldwell's like, oh, take all these civilians, like, lock them up. And they're like, someone, I don't know if it's John or someone just says like, oh, but like, what if he like is military or something like that? And Rodney pipes up and he goes, or it could be a she. And Elizabeth just kind of looks at him like, why'd you bring that up? I love it so much because Rodney's trying to just be like, I mean, yeah, it's valid. Like, it could be a he or a she. But Elizabeth's just like, not very feminist of you, King. Like, she's very like, okay, fine. It could be a she, fine. And I love it.
The one moment that Rodney berates John for being misogynistic or like sexist for not thinking that it could have been a woman. Love it.
The one time.
Oh man, and the one scene where John is like stuck in the F-302 and Elizabeth and Rodney are like military wives like waiting for their husband to come home. Like, oh shit. I love that part.
Oh,
I was thinking the exact same thing.
I was gonna say, like, honestly, if I like didn't have such a weird like thing about like just seeing them as like platonic soulmates, I totally see why people like ship them three. Because it is like, you know, there's just a lot of material there. They're like the leaders of Atlantis. Like, there's, you know, they're so isolated in their positions, they could probably only like get that sort of comfort and understanding from other people, aka all three of them together. And I feel like this episode is so leadership gang coded. Like the way that like Elizabeth and Rodney are so worried about John, and then when Rodney goes with John in the F-302 later, and it's just Elizabeth like freaking out. She's so worried. Like those are her boys. Those are her BFFs. She's genuinely like so stressed out for them. And yeah, no, so I totally get it. If you ship them three, more power to you.
That scene when they are stuck in the F-302 and I think she thinks they are gone or something, or she's not sure if they survived, and she's asking both of them to come in, and she throws a little please in there. It's just like, oh my god, she's so worried. My heart. I love her. I love them. Yeah, they are a great trio. I don't ship it, but no, they have just such a great connection and just great chemistry. It's very fun to watch again.
Yeah, I feel like I ship it in like a platonic way, like a platonic soulmate kind of vibe way. Yeah, just not in like a romantic way personally, but I think this is probably one of their most like leadership gang episodes that we've gotten, really.
Yeah.
I also like the scene where Rodney is like trying to figure out how to shut down the virus in the green room. And John and Elizabeth are kind of standing on the outside of the computer being like, oh, so what are you doing now? And like, I love those scenes. They have a couple of those, I think, in season 2 that we'll get to look forward to. Yeah, it's great. They just play off each other so good. And the chemistry is wonderful.
Is that the scene where John is worried about just turning the Daedalus off and on again? Because that's what he does to his laptop.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard. That is so funny. He's like, he doesn't have a lot of confidence in that method because he uses it. And Daedalus is probably a bit more sophisticated than his fucking lab shop. It's just, it cracked me out so hard.
I love John being like the brute force
Yeah.
IT guy, whereas Rodney's like the more intricate fixes. It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I kind of feel like about with John this episode, though. I feel like he gets a lot of like good, really like cheeky, like really funny like moments. And what I love is I just feel like he feels so much like older already. You know, I feel like when you can kind of compare it to Rising, like he seems so much more like, I don't like not like antsy kind of, like he just seems like he has this uncontainable energy to him almost. And he's just being like super cheeky and stuff, and you see he's not taking things very seriously. But I feel like in this episode you already see there's like a shift in his character, because he is taking things seriously, but he's still making jokes and stuff. Like he's still keeping that like lightheartedness, and it's something I've always appreciated, that he can in an episode feel like you feel the tension, you feel worried for the team, but like his jokes and like his humor don't take away from the tension. And I love that they add that emotional weight to him. You know, we see him like how he's dealing with losing Ford and how he goes to visit Ford's family, which is so good. And you just see how he's like, he's genuinely like convinced that he can find Ford, or he's like, he hasn't given up hope yet at all. And I just love that about John, is how he takes it upon himself to really like bear the weight of quote unquote mistakes that he or the whole base have made. You know, we see that again when Elizabeth leaves. He's very much like, I'm gonna find her, she's still out there. And Sam's the one to be like, hey, you know, like I don't know if that's gonna really work out. But he does this time and time again. And you know, even his past, we see it later in the flashback with Holden, I think is his name. He still carries that with him. And so it's just classic John to see him just torturing himself and like carrying the weight of that with him. And Ford's family, or like his cousin, like and how he didn't want to tell, or she didn't want to tell his grandparents anything. That's like
It was such a sweet scene, and I'm glad that they didn't forget about Ford right away. He's still there in their minds, and I think especially present in John's thoughts. And did you see how comfortable he was when the cousin, I think her name was Lara or something, but when she said that Ford told her that John is a good man, John looked so uncomfortable. He doesn't know how to take compliments at all.
Yeah, that whole bit was super interesting. I love the fact that Ford haunts the narrative through John and John's whole character development through the series. I feel like that doesn't go away, although it's very subtle and very subtextual. It's there. And I really liked how they set this bit up. I loved how the scene had segued from Elizabeth jokingly saying to John, "Oh, we're not giving up on you just yet," when he's stuck in the F-302, to bam, the picture of Ford. Because we know that John is not giving up on Ford. The same way Elizabeth was feeling about him being trapped up in space. And I just thought that it was an interesting scene to include in an episode where we're learning about John's promotion to Colonel. Especially when Ford's cousin was like, "Oh yeah, was Ford's trust in you misplaced?" And I think that is one of the biggest fears or self-doubts that John has, being kind of thrust in this position as leader, and now particularly because it's more real, because he has the title now. It's not just something that fell into his lap, like it's actual responsibility that's being granted to him now, and it has a name. And so, yeah, just oof, I feel so bad for John in this episode. But I love it because it's such juicy character moment for him.
That scene was so well placed.
It was.
I loved most of the like how they transition from the real from the timeline to like the flashbacks. It was so good. And yeah, when he's alone in the F302 and thinks he might die, and then it's cut to it's so good. And another time, I think it was with one of Elizabeth's flashback. It's when they power down the Daedalus and it turns dark, and then it shows up and it's her, but in a flashback. It's so good. It was just well cut, really good.
Definitely. I liked the editing in this episode. It was very nice. Very good storytelling.
Yes. However, I think it's time. I've been waiting for this. I have been
Me
waiting.
too.
Because, I don't know. Well, yeah, Ash might have guessed it. Well, I don't know. We have to take a little side note, because I can finally rant about the Deadless.
Oh!
If you guys, the audience doesn't know, but we recorded, I don't know what episode it was, but we went on like a 30-minute tangent of me just complaining about the Deadless. We ended up cutting it because we didn't fit with the episode. But I was like, I'm going to save that speech. I'm going to save it. In my mind, I was like, I'm waiting for Intruder so I can rant about how much I hate that the Deadless is here. So we're going to do that now. We're going to take a little side note. But I think I will say though, Ash was like laughing. Ash knew. Ash was cracking up. I will say, however, I think I am glad that we watched this episode before I bring up this rant, because I think I forgot like how good this episode is on its own. Like, yeah, I will say, yeah. I see what you mean, Ash. I'm a believer. I'm a Intruder supremacist.
Yep.
It really is so good. Like, it does so much with the characters. I mean, I do wish we got, more like from Rodney. I know you mentioned like his Earth feelings. But besides that, I feel like all of them got good screen time, and all of them got like good moments that just felt like a really nice reintroduction into this world and into these characters, and very much like we're taking them in this new direction now, and it just feels like a fresh episode to start off the season. Like, I will say that, and I think I didn't really remember that when I did the last rant. However, I'm back now. Talk about the Deadless coming to Earth, or coming with them to Atlantis, because what the fuck? I hate it. I hate it a lot. It just, we talked so much about how we love the survival aspect of season 1, and I think there was so much potential for it to be like its own colony, for it to be this like place separate from Earth, separate from the military, separate from like that military leader. We have a civilian in charge. It can be its own thing. Finally, they could really have just gone in so many good directions, and instead they took the fucking laziest ass route ever known to man. I'm getting stressed just thinking about it. Are you goddamn kidding me? The Deadless coming just literally ruins everything we praised about season 1 about the survival aspect. There, because from now on, we know there's no more threat. They have a giant little warship just hanging around, and as we see in these next few episodes, they abuse that shit like hell. It's become their TARDIS and like their little like sonic screwdriver, because anytime the team's like, oh no, we're in danger, John's like, but wait, Caldwell is on his way. Like, Caldwell comes up and is like, hey kids, you guys need help? And they're like, yeah, and like they just go into his ship and they go home, and like the anger is taken over. I don't know where that came from. But like, it drives me absolutely batshit insane, and it just pisses me off that they went such a lazy route. And here's the thing, you know, we kind of talked about this, like, I'm just saying all things I said before, as if you guys know what I mean. You know, it would have been so fun if the Daedalus had come, right? Okay. And something happens and it breaks down and the Daedalus is stuck with Atlantis, you know, on Atlantis in the Pegasus Galaxy until like, I think Caldwell only stays to like halfway through season 2 and then like he dips out. So they could have just stayed on Atlantis for that half and then they fix the hyperdrive and then they go back to Earth and they're like, don't worry, we'll tell Earth like, you guys are good. Like, we'll find a way to get you ZPM again. Like, something like that. But it just takes away, I think, so much from the show that the Daedalus just comes. It's just a trolley. It's just hanging out back and forth between 2 galaxies. And there's just no need. There's no need. And it just drives me crazy. I hate it.
I agree with you. I agree completely. I think we should do a running tally on the podcast of how many times the Daedalus saves the day at the last minute, like at the Deus Ex Machina that is the Daedalus, because it is completely, if memory serves, it's going to be a high number. But that is an excellent fix that you just proposed. Like, they totally could have done that. I think it would have worked out just fine. You didn't even have to have the Daedalus crew really integrate with Atlantis that much. They could just stay on the ship, like, during the time that it was there being fixed. Like, that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like less of the excitement of we're on our own and we have to figure these things out is a thing now. And in a way, you're right. It is lazy. I think they were afraid about like writing about resources and like upping the ante of the last Wraith attack. So they were just like, yeah, we'll just have a nice bus that takes us back and forth. That's always conveniently next to the planet that we're at for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that's the little poo-poo thing about Daedalus.
Yeah, and no, you're so right. They really, like, if they did not, like, nothing changes if they're just like, oh, hey, the Daedalus is broken, like, it's stuck in the Pegasus Galaxy. Like, you still can have Caldwell lurking in the corners and being like, Elizabeth, are you doing your job right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you could still have that tension. And then if they didn't, if they didn't want to incorporate all those people from the Daedalus, they could just have them on the ship. Obviously, it would have been so fun, but let's be honest, they would have never done this. But it would have been so much fun if, like, if it was, like, the Daedalus crew having to integrate with Atlantis, you know? Again, seeing people who are more military, maybe more civilians coming in, and it's just like it upsets the whole ecosystem of the base. It's such a fragile ecosystem already, and then when you throw in like other people, it's like, well, are they gonna like gel well with the crew? And then like again, you could have like like half of them, you know, some people decide to stay, and you get like, I don't know, give Carson a medical assistant,
Ooh.
get another therapist, have other characters that are like, you know, I'm gonna stay, and they just become like little like recurring like ish characters you just see run around, you know, and then half of them go back and that's it. They just go back and they're like, hey, we're gonna go tell Earth you guys need help again, or like, don't worry, like we'll see you in half a season. Like totally fine. It's just the way that like the Daedalus just comes and like they just never have to worry about resources or like being alone again. It's so frustrating, and I just wish it was different. Especially because, you know, I mentioned before, you know, we're losing that survival aspect, but never again does it ever feel like there's any real danger, I feel like, low-key. Because I feel like after this, I just feel like there's just like this, oh, well, like the Daedalus is going to come. Or like, oh, well, Earth is going to, like, Earth can dial in now.
Yeah. It's like,
It just takes away so much. It takes away so much.
Yeah, it's getting closer to SG1, I feel like. I think because SG1 had a lot of allies. They weren't always available, but a lot of time it was like, hey, can we also talk around? Mostly it was no, but sometimes they could drop by or something, or they just miraculously had a ship hanging around that they could use. No, first of all, I want to say I'm glad that you see that Intruder is a good episode.
I see the line.
But yeah, I agree basically with what you said about and what Tor said about what the Daedalus, how they change a lot of what's at stake in Atlantis and what made the first season so fundamentally different, I'm gonna say, from SG1, which made it their own show. It would be fun to see Hermiod. Is it Hermiod?
Yeah.
The Asgard.
Yeah.
To see what Hermiod would be up to in Atlantis.
Oh yeah, I would be also
because he's already so done with humans. I think he's one of my favorite Asgard. He's so funny. I love him. He's so cranky all the time. But he's hilarious. Yeah, and just now he's stuck there with even more humans. Like, oh my god, that's a nightmare. It would be funny to have like one episode just following him and being annoyed by humans.
Oh man, they should have done it. I would have loved an episode from Hermiod's point of view. Just the little bits we get of him in this episode, his banter with Rodney is so funny. Him just sighing at things that Rodney says, and Rodney being like, "What?" Like, it's just so good. It's so good. Also, Hermiod, what I think is swearing to himself as he's like failing to fix the ship was so funny as well. And I can't wait till we get Novak on the Daedalus so we can have some of their odd couple-iness, because that's always a good time too.
Oh my gosh. I'm dying though, because I think having, again, another huge missed opportunity was just having Hermiod as a recurring character. I think it would have been so fun just to have another alien on base, especially one who is so unpleasant and unhappy that he's stuck here with them. And I could just imagine though, like, oh my gosh, the shenanigans in him, Zelenka, and Rodney would get into in the lab. Oh my gosh. No. And then my mind went there, right? First I was like, okay, that'd be funny. And then my mind went to Zelenka's bar. And I was just cracking up because I can totally picture, or like a lazy Sunday, I was just cracking up. Imagine on a lazy Sunday, this is like later in season 2, I could just see John, Ronan, and Hermiod just laying out on like beach chairs with like sunglasses and like pina coladas, just enjoying their time. Like for some reason, yeah. Oh, please. But I can just imagine, like, I feel like Hermiod would just get along with John and Ronan so well. He'd be like one of the boys, like after John gets over the weirdness, they'd just be like, "Hey, Hermiod, high five," and Rodney's like, "Why do you get along with him? Like, we're the ones always in the lab. Like, him and like are like, we're the ones in the lab, like dealing with him 24/7." And Ronan's just like, "I don't know, he's cool." Ronan's like, he's chill.
Oh man.
With like huge sunglasses and like bathing
shorts.
Floral shirt.
John sets him up.
And he just has a little pina colada.
Oh gosh. Imagine him walking around the base like this. Everybody would like not believing their eyes. It's just man.
No, that's the first time, and then it just becomes like a ritual. Every Sunday, they get some drinks from Zuleika's. They go out to their little patio, and they just roll out the beach chairs, and they just hang out with their little pina coladas.
Oh my!
Amazing.
And every morning, they're just like every Sunday morning or Sunday morning, they're like, "Hey, Hermiod," and he's like, "Hey," just a pina colada in the hallway.
And Caldwell finds out. He's like, "What are you doing?" What are you doing?
Like, not you too. You've turned into one of them. And Hermione's just like, Colin's like, "Do you even want to go home?" And Hermione's like, "Yes."
Oh,
She's like, "I'm being held hostage here." Yeah. No, I feel like Hermione would very much be like, the Stockholm syndrome is setting in. Like, he'd be like, he's like, "I'm one of them." He's looking at his floral shirt, his little pina colada. He's like, He's like, what have I done?
Oh my god. No, he's hilarious.
He's like in an Asgard horror movie. Like that's their biggest fear. Integrating with human society.
Yeah. He's like, these humans have grown on me. He's like, I'm sick. Like, get me
Disgusting.
out of here. He's like, Caldwell, please take me with you. And Caldwell's like, no, you can stay here. I needed Hermiod to be a permanent member of the cast. I just need Hermiod there.
Heck yeah.
That would be fun. That would be really fun. Oh man.
Okay, one last thing, and then we can switch to another topic. But I wanted to mention something that Ash mentioned, like before the Hermiod fiasco. Ash mentioned something I think is really interesting. You mentioned that you think it's now like more aligned with SG1, and I think that's probably a factor into how the show changed, because not only they kind of went the comfortable route. I keep calling them lazy. Sorry, I'll be nice. The comfortable route is this. They just had the Deathless to shuttle them around. But I don't know. I also think that like they shifted things around, and I think there's a clear difference between season 1 and the rest of the seasons. I think season 1 was a lot more. I mean, obviously they're trying to like find their place, right? They weren't sure like how to write these characters, how to write these, like which dynamics would work, which dynamics wouldn't. But I think that while season 1 is like funny, I feel like there's a tone to the show that I feel like I'm not sure is just, even from the first episode, I'm like, I don't think it's there. Like I feel like already off the bat, season 2 is a lot more like humorous or a lot more like lighthearted than I feel like season 1 was. I just feel like even in like, when you think back to like hide and seek, if you want to consider like, like the 2 like first episodes, right? Like there's just such a different vibe to even, and again though, like McShep are both like, they're fooling around in both eps, it's very much like there's some lightheartedness in them, but there's still something is different. Something changed. And I can't help but think it might have just been a response to how the first season was received at the time, because I don't think a lot of people like season 1, or I think that there's a lot of like season 1 is like the worst. I think I've said this so many times, but when I first started watching Atlantis, so many people told me, they were like, just wait, it gets better. And I was like, Rising is the best thing I've ever seen. What do you mean it gets better? I was like, I already love this show. They're like, oh, season 1 is like wait till like season 3. And I was like, I love season 1 though. Like I just was into it from the beginning. And so I can't help but think that there was probably some people that, were very vocal probably about not liking season 1. So they kind of like changed it and maybe made it a little more similar to SG1 after the first season.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Anyways,
Thinking about it from the perspective of like SG1, SGA, and SGU, now that I'm watching more of SGU, I kind of feel like SGA was kind of straddling the line between SG1 and SGU, where you had that like isolation aspect, but you had more of a SG1 sort of storytelling style, or like dialogue, or like humor, I guess. And then with the Daedalus, it kind of swayed it more to the SG1 side, I feel like. So yeah, I see what you mean with the connection to Earth, because on Destiny they have no connection to Earth. So yeah, I see it.
They have the transportation stones. I don't know, what are they
Oh,
called?
that's true.
Communication stones.
Yeah.
That's true. But it's not like they can bring stuff back, is the thing.
Yeah. And, that's interesting that you brought up SG, because that's such a good point. And for the communication stones, they actually, we haven't got, in our little rewatch, we're like on episode like 13 or 12 or something. But in season 2, they like completely cut back on the communication stones. I think people were complaining about how often they use them. It was almost like the opposite. And they got less Earth time. They switched it. Instead of like relying more on Earth. They just went completely back on it, and they barely use it in season 2. I think that's so interesting that you brought up SGU, because you're right. It is kind of like a, and that's something I appreciate about SGU, is that they stuck to their premise. They were like, you all are not gonna find Earth, but like it's gonna take y'all. It's gonna take you millions of years to get back. And so there is that survival aspect, and I think that honestly, I think it definitely helps SGU as like just not even just as like a show, but just as like a way to stand out from the previous 2 shows in the franchise, is because they genuinely are alone and stuck. And that's what gives them so much like material to work with. And that's why there's so many episodes where they're like, well, we ran out of water. Well, we ran out of food. Like, what do we do now? Like, you know, they actually have to fight to survive. It's not just they're cruising while they're waiting for the Daedalus to dock at 4 p.m.
Yeah, pretty much.
With their Amazon packages, like.
But do you know how many fic were created after the Daedalus became a thing that were just like, oh yeah, Rodney's waiting for his like Batman DVDs to come on the Daedalus, or like his imported fancy coffee. And like Zelenka's waiting for his anime DVDs to come on the, and I love those fics so much. But yeah, it's definitely different from like the season 1 fic vibes that were very much like, we're dying, we don't have food, we don't have water, like we need, so it's interesting, very interesting tonal shift.
That is so, I'm just cracking up though when you're, because it's so true. I mean, like season 1, like fic is like, oh my gosh, like they're like fighting, tussling, and season 2 is like, oh, when is my CD gonna get here? Like, Daedalus is delayed by another 2 hours. Like, I have a movie night tonight. Like, I can't. They're like, oh my god, we have to postpone movie night. Season 1, they're like, what is movie night? They had one when they were in the beginning, when they were free, and after that, it was just a constant descent of, are we gonna survive?
We can't use the ZPM power to power the TV to power.
Yeah. They're like, someone make a backup generator so we can like, you know, watch fucking John's like football movie for the 10th time. Because he's the only one who brought a DVD.
So sad.
Idiot he is. I did wanna. Sorry, I'm gonna try to get out of. Last thing, I want to get out of this topic because we've been here for a while. But I just want to say, I've been rewatching SG1, right? I'm on season 1 still, very early. But, you know, I think it's so interesting that I think the first season of SG1 is quite different than the rest of SG1. And I think it's a lot more similar to Atlantis and Universe than, you know, we think. Because it is very much like, there's that meme on Tumblr I've talked about before. It's like what is it? It's Sunny in Philadelphia meme where it's like, the gang does this. And it's like, every episode the gang does something horrible and something bad. Like, you know, the gang tries to kill Kowalski in episode like 3. Jack gets infected by a plague and like turns old. The gang, you know, tries to kill Apophis and they all die. Like, it's very much like every episode they are set up for, they go into a situation and they fuck it up, like the humans we are, and then it ends horribly. And either like somehow like they like get out of it just because like human ingenuity, I guess, you know. But it's a lot more similar, I think, to the first season of SGA and SGU, because it's very much like, maybe it's not as like survival based, but it's very much like every episode they are failing and doing their worst and like just making terrible decisions all around. I don't know. I love the first seasons of all these shows because, again, I just think it's so much more interesting when you show like people failing instead of just always being the heroes and always being the, like, you know, defeating, you know, the bad guy and like winning the day. Yeah, I just think it's interesting that all 3 of them kind of start off a lot more maybe not survival, but like a lot more of showing human faults, I guess you could say. And I am curious, you know, again, I'm gonna say it again. I'm curious to get to SG1's second season. Because again, I don't really remember it a lot.
Yeah.
But I am waiting to see when they sort of switch from the we're constantly failing to the we win everything. We are the superpower of the universe kind of vibe that SG1 has. It switches very quickly.
Yeah, that is interesting because I feel like Atlantis, they continue to fail, despite the fact that they have the Daedalus. They get the Daedalus to save them, not necessarily save the day in particular. So that's important because I like the fact that Atlantis is basically failure porn. In every episode, they're like, "Oops, oopsie."
Yeah.
But yeah. Although this episode was a solid win. I will say that. There was no oopsie happening here.
Surprise!
True. They do.
They did it for once.
Yeah.
They get back to Atlantis, and only 2 people died.
Not bad. Considering. And
Yeah.
John and Rodney got a really bad sunburn, but that's okay.
Also, this is just another side note. This wasn't even what I was going to say, but also, oh my god, the McShep Eli Matt parallels.
Yeah!
Crazy! Both of them getting sunburns.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was cute. Yeah.
Cute. I wonder if there's a Jack and Daniel.
Sunburn?
So it's the military and scientists. So I like to try to find the parallels between them three.
I gotta think about that one.
They ever got a sunburn. Well, there was a time they blew up a sun.
That's true.
They didn't get sunburn, but that's close enough, I think. But lastly, I was just gonna say, how have we not talked about McShep?
I know!
was so
F302K scene, my beloved!
We restrained ourselves. I think we were just holding it in. We were trying to like keep it professional. This is
Why?
I forget. I don't know, right, girl? Professional. Who the fuck? Who said? But we never professional. What is that? No, I'm kidding. There's so good moments. This is a treasure trove. This has been such a nice return to form, honestly. You know, I compared it to hide and seek earlier, but it really is. I mean, instead of like John's being a little more mean than he was in hide and seek. They were like 2 little best friends running around in hide and seek. Here they're like, we hate each other, but we love each other kind of vibes. But no, there's so much. I mean, starting with Rodney accidentally calling John Major to Caldwell, and Caldwell's like Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel, and Rodney's like, oh yeah, I can't say that anymore, which is sad because it's all he called John in the first season. He was like Major. But yeah,
And Major, I don't know. Major, I like Major. I like it as a rank. I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
As a rank. I don't care what ranks. But it has, like, I think Major Carter sounds so much better than Captain or Colonel. And the same, I'm not sure about John. Is he called Colonel a lot? I actually don't remember. But yeah, he was always Major Shepard, and now he's Colonel. So I totally get where Rodney is coming from. Yeah.
I feel like slowly after this point, Rodney does call John Colonel, but he starts to just call him Shepard. I think after a while, because I think Colonel's meh. So I think he just drops the formality as much as we go all through the series. But
yeah.
I'm gonna pay more attention to that this watch through to see where that goes.
Yeah. Because John's like Lieutenant Colonel, right? Like he's not even technically Colonel like ever. He's like Lieutenant Colonel. So it's like, well, it's not even fun to say like Colonel John. It's like Lieutenant Colonel John. And it's like, are you okay? Yeah, it's hard to make like a nickname, or like it's hard for him to just Rodney can't be shouting those words, those 2 ass words
Too long.
every time he's in danger. Way too long. Yeah, just go for Shepard. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I also really like the scene about with John and Rodney discussing chess, where Rodney's like, well, I can't find anybody to play with, like everyone's too easy to beat. This line has spawned thousands upon thousands of fic about John and Rodney being chess partners. Thousands. I'm telling you, thousands. And in most or majority of fic that I've read, they're pretty evenly matched because people consider John's impulsiveness to be a good opponent against Rodney's very like tactical and like this move will work sort of thinking. So they pretty much beat each other. They're pretty much tied in most stories. And I love that. Thank you, writers, for spawning this lovely fan movement of them playing chess. I could literally read thousands and thousands. I have read thousands and thousands of words of them just playing chess and bickering.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I love it so much. And I feel like I never like remembered this. And it's so cute that Rodney's like, oh yeah, like I can't play against him, like everyone's too easy. And you flash forward to the game when they play, and John beats him. And Rodney's like, let's play again. And like, oh my god, it's like it's the little moments in Stargate that make me so happy. There's so many like good little threads that they'll kind of come back to, and it's like hard to catch if you're not like super paying attention, you know. But this is another one that I'm like, oh, this is a good one. It's a good little tie-in.
Yeah, it's nice. And I like the parallel, especially because I feel like, I always say this, but they're the type of people you wouldn't expect to be friends outside of, like, this sort of situation. But the fact that they voluntarily, like, spend time with each other outside of work is so cute. And so I like that this is a little foreshadowing to them getting to do some of that in the future. I also really enjoyed how when they were going to die in the F-302 bay, they just turned to look at each other stupidly like idiots, and they didn't even attempt any sort of rescue of their lives. They're just like, so I guess we're dying now? Cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is so good. You know, I'm so happy we got this episode. Knowing that their divorce era is incoming, because at least we got some happiness. Because oh my gosh, it's so cute. Everything just, I do wish that they had kind of made it more of a less of Dwight and Jim kind of relationship. I wish it was more of a like Dwight and Jim in the later seasons of The Office, you know, where they're like already friends. But also, side note, Dwight and Jim, how have we not made the connection? That's McShep. Are we stupid? Like, I'm adding that to like my little McShep and other universes.
Yes,
like, are you kidding me? That's so them.
Oh man.
Crazy.
Oh man.
Oh wow.
It's perfect. I don't know what happened with that. That's them. Anyways though. But yeah, I feel like they tried to make it like very much Dwight and Jim in the early seasons, where it's like kind of just Jim bullying Dwight. But I wish they had done, you know, they do occasionally show like I said, like them hanging out outside of work, and it's very much like the Dwight and Jim in later seasons where it's like, oh, we're friends, like Odd Couple friends, you know, that I love. Yeah, so I do wish that they were a little more like when Rodney's like crouching down and John just like glaring at, like just looking at him like, what the fuck. I love it's like those little moments where you just see that like they are friends, but John has no idea. He is so confused by Rodney as a person at this point still. He's very much like, how is this man real? He's like, who made this man in a lab and let him out by accident? Like he's so just baffled by this man. And yeah, I just love all the little like moments in the F-302 when John's like, shut up, we don't have enough air. And Rodney's in the back like sulking, like, why can't I talk? Like I need to talk. Like I'm panicking. And John's like, nope, shut up. And yeah, no, I love the backseat driver vibes too. Rodney just being like, do this, and John's like we're gonna die. And John's like, no, I got this.
Yeah,
very much flyboy.
That was so good. John just took Rodney for a little drive, that's all. It was like around the block. Like, it's okay. They got sunburned in the process, but it's fine. Rodney...
That's actually how it felt.
That's how John acted, like... He was like, Mom, I'm borrowing
Aw.
the Prius and I'm driving Rodney around the block. And he did that.
Yeah.
Pretty. And this is like their second date. Second or third date, too. So it's very new.
And he's like breaking all the speed limits. And Rodney's like, please God, that I don't believe in.
Rodney's like, you're driving this like this is a fucking Corvette. Like, girl, this is a Prius. Like, calm your ass down. John's doing like spins. He literally like is like, just like drifting in his little car, and Rodney's like, this is not Mario. Calm down.
Yeah, those were the vibes.
Amazing.
Yeah, Rodney like closing his eyes so the motion sickness passes. Yeah, I've been there. I understand.
Yeah.
But one thing I really liked about that whole bit of the episode in particular was their little montage in the F-302 bay where they were trying to take out all the computers from the ships. The attention to detail on that set was incredible. You get to see the personal pictures of all the pilots in each of the ship, and each one is different. Like, some guy had his wife's, like, baby pictures, like the sonogram. Someone had, like, their keychain with, like, ducks and, like, beads on it. It was just so cute, and I like seeing, like, the personality of the personnel on the ship through that scene. And the music was fun, too.
That was so much fun, and yeah, that they probably had one model to work with, and they just changed out between each take. They changed out these little details. That was really fun, really sweet. Also,
Yeah, like I liked seeing them like crawling underneath the ships with like the flashlight in their mouth, and like Rodney jumping to see if John was already in a ship before running to the next one. It was cute. Like the teamwork. The only thing I forgot to mention, darn me, when we were talking about the Simon scene, was the fact that Elizabeth had brought up Athosian cooking. And in my mind, I was like, yo, fic writers, listen up. Listen up. This is gold. I think Elizabeth should make or try to attempt to make Athosian dishes with Teyla. And they fail utterly, but they have fun doing it. Someone should write that.
I wrote that.
You
actually.
did?
Wait. Oh my god.
I wrote it for Teylabeth week. It's just Teyla tries to make I think it's a turtle root soup for Sharon, and fails, and Elizabeth comes and tries to help her, but I think they still fail.
Oh.
I'm horrible at remembering my own fics, but yeah, it's not going well. It's yeah. Can I link my own fic here?
Yes, do it. Link it.
Please. Yeah, we'll have two fic recs for today.
Yes.
And both are Teylabeth. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, but I caught that bit that she likes Athosian food. It was like, yes, she embraces their culture, and she's just like she has connections, and I just remember Teyla taking her to the mainland and just introducing her to everyone, and and she just really enjoying the company of the Athosians and learning about them, and not just, I mean, you can't just learn about the culture, it's much more detailed, but just like, I think she likes being with them, and it's also just a change from Atlantis, and she's interested in people, so she gets to meet all these people, and they are, I think, like, her going to the mainland is always like a mini vacation for her, and she just really likes, most of my fics are on the mainland, I think. Because it's just, it gets her away from everyone, and away from her responsibilities. I think she's more able to shut her work brain off, and No, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it's definitely something we didn't see enough in the show, her going to the mainland. So,
Yes. One last thing I want to add when we were talking about Elizabeth and Rodney is the scene. It's like half a second, but she pats his back. Like I think it's after he saved. Is it after he saved John or beamed him out or something? Oh, I have another thing about that in a second, but they are so happy he's back, and she just pats his back. And I love that they continue both, that she's a very touchy person, but her job kind of forbids her from expressing that most of the time. But also it just continues the relationship that she and Rodney have. Like, they have this, I don't know, they're so comfortable around each other and have this special connection that allows her to do that and him not being freaked out or I don't know, repulsed by it. So yeah, it was the first time that I saw that, and it was just like, ah!
so cute.
I was like, did you see that? Yeah, very sweet.
Them.
Like, about the John being beamed back onto the Daedalus, I'm so mad that he didn't fall on his ass.
I know.
It doesn't make sense. Okay,
How
they
is he
beam him out,
standing?
and it's actually they wanted to do that apparently initially, but somebody said it would be too silly. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I think that would be great.
What? Yeah, I mean, he could just why not? Like, he doesn't have to, like, they could, like, he was sitting, right? So he wouldn't fall just, like, completely over. He just would, like, it could be just, like, a little bit, like, a little, it would have been silly, yes, but also it would make sense. And to me, it was more distracting to have him standing there than instead of him just falling down. Yeah.
I feel like it also just would have been very, like, John-esque for him to just, like, flop. And just for him to, like, just completely fall it over and then get back up and be like,
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
I'm alive. He's like, I'm alive. Like, very much like, oh, I'm alive. Like, I'm here. And then he's like, oh. Like, then he can say the line about, like, his his whole body parts being there. But I would have, it's so cute. But I also feel like, well, that's just this is a side note, but I feel like it's so cam-coded. They would do that for Cam.
Yeah, 100%.
They would do that for Cam.
Yeah.
You're so right.
Because he's a lot more, he can be silly, I feel like, without, like, I don't know, he's a lot more lighthearted character than John, so I do get why, but, like, I feel like they should have just done it with John. But I feel like if it was Cam, though, 100% they would have done it with Cam.
Would have worked.
True. Yeah. I mean, that guy's losing his pants constantly.
Yeah. Where's his pants? He's being handcuffed to beds and eating a Twinkie. Okay, that man is not serious.
No.
That man goes to therapy, kind of.
Oh man. Yeah.
John, if he went to therapy.
Perhaps.
John, if he was a happy person.
Yeah.
No, John, if he was normal. John, if he was normal.
If he was normal, 100%.
John, if he had loving parents.
Oh. Ouch. That's so true, though.
Oh, zinger.
Damn.
Zinger. That one.
Drag him.
Yeah. Get his ass. Okay, let me transition. And now we will head over to Ash for the Bechdel test.
All right. I almost forgot about that. Yes, this episode passes. We have the conversation between Taylor and Elizabeth in the end.
Yes.
They keep it up.
We made it.
We'll take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Starting off season 2 strong.
Yes, very good. I like that. Is it my turn with the behind the scenes? That's the word.
Yes.
Okay. So, this episode was written by Joseph Malozzi and Paul Mully and directed by Peter DeLuise. And in French, it's called IA, which is AI. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
I thought it was, yeah, it is. Because I think they mentioned that it's an AI, but it doesn't seem that I don't. Yeah. Anyways, they went for that. So we learned that we know that this episode takes place approximately 2 months after the events of the Siege, Part 3. Also, this episode is similar to the SG-1 episode Entity, which featured an invasion of Stargate Command by an artificially intelligent computer program, and McKay even references that event when discussing how the Wraith computer virus survived the system start. This episode lacks an intro sequence. Instead, the main credits are overlaid on the teaser scene with a very short set of brand new graphics in the end. I think it's very interesting. I wonder if they did it because they didn't want to show that Ford was gone, or they didn't want to spoil the surprise of Ronan coming in.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
Probably because he wasn't in this episode. Yeah, this one, Tor mentioned this earlier. In one of the F-302 fighter interceptors that Shepard removes the navigational computer from, pictures of a crew member's wife and child are visible on the dashboard, portrayed by Peter DeLuise's wife, Anna Marie DeLuise, and their child. As well, on the right dash, a piece of paper with a lipstick kiss is visible. So all the F-302 dashboards are personalized, and also because Peter DeLuise got his wife in there, he also got himself in this episode, which is in the scene where Carson tries to choose his new staff. There's a picture of Peter DeLuise in one of the personnel files.
Oh.
I think. Given that the flashback scene in this episode take place between the events of Siege Part 3 and Avalon Part 1, this marks the earliest chronological appearance of Major General Henry Landry.
Oh yeah! I totally didn't even realize that Landry was in this episode. He was just like mean military man.
Yeah. I actually think he was a lot of fun, especially because especially after Elizabeth says, like, yeah, you don't want to fight me on this one. He's like, yeah, you're right. I feel like he supports her a lot, and it's kind of, yeah, I think he likes her. After Shepard says, is he supposed to be naked like that? Hermiod says something in his native language. When played backwards, Hermiod says, these humans are infants. Later, after Caldwell says that they are still on course for the coronasphere, Hermiod says, the incompetence of these humans is beginning to make me angry.
Beginning? I think he was angry already.
Sorry, I was just still cracking up on the fact that he called John a baby.
I mean, he's not wrong.
This bitch can't stand seeing me naked. Oh, I love that.
When Shepard is flying the F-302 and being followed by the virus-controlled F-302, he says, I'm gonna tap on the brakes. This is a subtle nod to the Top Gun from 1986.
Oh.
Tom Cruise's character Maverick says pretty much the same thing in a maneuver against an MiG fighter's jet.
Very topical.
Oh, how very Maverick coded. Yeah, John is very Maverick coded.
Yeah.
Now we have a few recurring actors. Julie Walters, who plays Lara, Ford's cousin, previously played Disciple in the SG-1 episode Seth. And Kimani Ray Smith, who plays Dr. Lindstrom, previously played Ocker in the SG-1 episode Allegiance. He's also Rainbow Sun Frank's stunt double.
Oh.
So not only did they kill off Ford, they also killed off his stunt double.
Oh no. Damn.
He's getting all the good zingers this episode. Oh my god.
Yikes.
Now we have a few goofs. When ordering the ship to move off at sublight speed, Colonel Caldwell refers to Captain Mayers, who's the pilot, as Major. So probably messed up Mayers with Major, or I don't know what's going on there.
Oops.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When Shepard is beamed off of his F-302 fighter by McKay, he is changed from a sitting position to a standing one when he materializes on the Daedalus' bridge. In a DVD commentary for this episode, Peter DeLuise mentions that he originally intended Shepard to be in a sitting position and fall, but the producers decided that it would be too silly.
Missed opportunity.
Very much. At Stargate Command, when Dr. Weir is being grilled about Shepard's insubordination, we can see into the gate room through the windows. Where we expect to see the Stargate, however, we see the entire back wall of the gate room is in fact missing due to set maintenance.
Oh, damn.
Oh
no.
gosh, that's so bad.
Yep.
That's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
What is set maintenance, I wonder? Like, what do they do? Like, wash it? Like, repaint it?
Did they break the star? Oh, maybe. I was like, did they break the Stargate? What the fuck?
I hope not.
That's it from me. That would be really bad. How will they get back?
Well, thank you for the lovely behind the scenes. And as usual, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Jumping Puddles, the Stargate Atlantis Rewatch podcast. Be sure to check out all of our social media down below in the description box. Everything is linked from our Jumping Puddles to our own private social medias. Public social medias. We'll also be linking in the 2 fics that Ash mentioned that are both Teylabeth ones and one written by our very own Ash. So go check those out. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us today, and tune in next time for Runner!
Woo! Yay!
We can finally stop bringing up Ronan in every episode when he's not even in it.
Yay!
Yes! Yay!
Yes. Well, bye!
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 All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.